Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Tuesday, June 28th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is preparing a bill to vote that would protect abortion rights. We're going to have more on that story. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says that the Supreme Court justices who misled senators during their confirmation hearings should be impeached. Then, closing arguments start today in the murder of the trial for the man accused of killing rapper Nipsey Hussle.
Plus, LeBron James trading card trades for millions. We're going to tell you exactly how much. And Forbes has come out with its self-made woman's list. We're going to tell you who's on it. We have all of that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth. So let's get it.
Well, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is preparing a vote on a bill that would protect abortion. Yesterday, Pelosi sent a letter to fellow Democrats on the Hill, hinting at other bills that would codify landmark Supreme Court decisions like gay marriage and the right to contraceptives. The other bills come after Justice Clarence Thomas, his concurring opinion in the abortion ruling that calls for the court to revisit other landmark rulings. So Pelosi cited three specific proposals that House Democrats are considering. One would codify Roe v. Wade into law. The other would make it clear that women are free to travel wherever across the country for any reason. It's really sad in 2022 that you need a law so that women can travel across the country for any reason. And the third would protect reproductive health data that gets stored on apps and your cookies and your browser history, because they're afraid that prosecutors in states that ban abortion would use that data against you if you go to court or anything like that if you get an abortion. Mm-hmm. So now those are the three things that they're looking to do in the House. Yesterday, I asked what the plan was. This kind of makes me a little bit more excited that they are thinking, that they are moving forward with something that they have in mind to do, because we do know that they're coming for not just abortion rights, they're coming for gay rights, and they're coming for contraceptive rights. They're coming for a little bit of everything. So just to see that they're being a little proactive kind of makes me feel just a little bit better.
And, you know, it's almost like they were in the room listening to us yesterday, how we were going on and on about needing a plan. And then here comes Nancy Pelosi with this, actually, like you said, a great plan. Three steps here, three parts. Again, like you said, codifying is great. But I want to touch on the clearing women to be able to travel around, this particular part of this is very important, because you do have those states that are welcoming women in from other states, and you have Apple and Lyft and different companies like we've talked about before that are helping women to be able to travel amongst the world. And you have Lizzo and so many people that are putting money into, helping women travel. So this is really, really good. But I really want to focus on the third one, which is protecting reproductive health data. I don't know if we talked about this story before, but Mimi, I know we brought it up before, that there is a big conversation in California that the government has been collecting information on California consumers about period apps. So a lot of women, we use apps to check if we are,
ovulating, menstruating.
Exactly. You check your if you have an abortion, it tracks all of that stuff. And so women have been very nervous about this, because when we're talking about abortion rights and you're trying to cancel abortions and not give us the right to choose, these data apps are saving our health data and using it against us, knowing if you have an abortion, knowing when you're ovulating, all that stuff. And so this is really important that Nancy Pelosi is even thinking in this realm, that she's even thinking like as a woman. That's why it's so great that she's a woman putting this on paper. And I think it's really, like you said, this is a perfect three-step plan.
Absolutely.
I mean, perfect.
Absolutely. The privacy laws, too.
Privacy, yes.
I just don't understand how they can take that sort of data and sell it to a third party and then track you based upon that data. Something so private as when you are menstruating should be kept between you and your spouse.
Yeah. But our data has been shared before. Yeah. It's just that now it's being used against us, and now it's a problem.
Yeah.
A Democratic Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, says that conservative justices who misled Americans during their confirmation hearings on whether or not they supported overturning Roe versus Wade should be impeached. AOC is talking specifically about the most recent justices confirmed to the court. Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett Cortez, they said that lying under oath is an impeachable offense.
The Supreme Court has dramatically overreached its authority.
These constitutional anarchists like AOC have to be dealt with, and there will be a backlash against this effort to intimidate our judges.
Cortez's comments came after Senators Susan Collins and Joe Manchin appeared to have misgivings about voting to confirm Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett. The senators say that when they interviewed them during the confirmation process, both said Roe versus Wade was a settled law. So I want to read four quotes that people pulled. You know, the internet has been just finding everything here. So one was, one person said Roe versus Wade is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. Now it's like, how is it important if we're overturning it, right? Another one, that's the law of the land. I accept the law of the land. That's not true. Another one was, it's settled as a precedent of the Supreme Court. Overturning that doesn't make sense. And then the last one, Roe versus Wade clearly held that the Constitution protects a woman's right to terminate a pregnancy. And so how it's like you're switching it up here. And so I'm really happy that AOC, again, finding the little loophole there, diving in on this, because these people need to be called out and they do need to be impeached. This, like they said, is an impeachable offense.
It's definitely an impeachable defense. We talk about this often. There needs to be a code of ethics for Supreme Court justices. There's nobody governing them. They're able to do a little bit of whatever it is that they want to do. And we, as the American people, have to just take it. Another thing that AOC said that really resonated with me was, she said, what makes this particularly dangerous is that it sends a message to all future nominees that they can lie to members of Congress and get away with it in order to secure their Supreme Court confirmation. And that's exactly what it does. So all of those quotes that you just read, they lied. You brought up 4 different instances where they lied to members of Congress, United States Congress. They lied under oath and were able to just do whatever they wanted to do at the end of the day. And so, yeah, absolutely. There needs to be some sort of impeachable offense. There needs to be some sort of consequence. And will that happen? I don't know.
I don't know, but it definitely should happen. Even if you just want to get a regular job, if you lied on your application, things of that nature, something as simple as that, it could be used against you and you probably wouldn't be hired there, and so on and so on. These people said this. They stood on record. We have the proof. You read it. And yet, this is okay. This is like a blatant lie that's in our face. They lied to us, and now they flipped the script. They have to be held accountable, because if not, this is only the beginning of things they're going to try and change, and we know that.
Yeah, and we'll just see, like I said, more justices going through the confirmation hearings, lying to get to where they want to be, and then doing what they want once they're there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a great point.
All right, but this past weekend's protest against the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision has pitted police against demonstrators. While most protests have been peaceful, protesters were arrested around the nation, and police have used extreme force against some protesters. Abortion protests in the past have often been peaceful affairs, but the recent ruling by the High Court has increased tensions between both sides of the issue. Pro-life organizations have been hit with vandalism, as well as some court buildings like one in Vermont last week of the Department of Homeland Security. They warned of political violence after the ruling.
And the last of 21 people killed during the Uvalde school shooting massacre has been laid to rest. 10-year-old Uziyah Garcias Funeral was held Saturday. Friends and family call him Uzi for short. He's being remembered as a loving boy who was a big fan of video games. Uzi's family says his favorite afternoon snack was a Nutella sandwich. So very sad. It took over a month to bury everyone. There was just so many people, and it was a really small town, and I think there was just one corner for all the people, and so we're just now seeing this last little boy laid to rest. And just an update on Uvalde, the grandmother of the shooter, she was just released from the hospital today. She was shot in the face. If you remember, he shot her about a dispute over a cell phone right before he ran out the house and committed the massacre, killing 19 kids and 2 teachers. And the other only remaining young woman, a 10-year-old little girl, she is still in the hospital, but she's been upgraded to good condition. So that's good. And then the other thing that's kind of standing out to me is that the Washington Post is reporting that journalists in the area, they've been trying to get the story and continue to bring the story out, and they are being stonewalled. They're being threatened with trespassing. The police officials there have refused to give them any information. They have now told them that they will no longer hold press conferences. So to me, it still seems like they're trying to cover information. They're still trying to keep us out of what exactly happened, even though what we've heard is so bad. I just don't know how worse it could get. So at this point, might as well just let it all out.
Well, I think about what's going on there, and we know a lot of things went wrong on that day.
Yeah.
Things could have been handled differently, and now that they've buried everyone, I know some of these people in the town are trying to move on with it. I'm talking about some of those police officers that really dropped the ball in this situation, but it's not going to happen. What are we going to do as a country to make sure that it doesn't happen again? What are we going to do for those families that have to try and move on with their lives, losing their loved ones? You're talking about like an 8 or 9-year-old. That's the age of my son. He loves Nutella sandwiches. So when you read that, that hits me a different way, because that could be me as a parent, and I don't want this story to ever stop being talked about.
Absolutely.
You know, I just don't.
And my heart goes out. I mean, it's summer break. Think about all the summer plans that these parents had with their children. You know, I'm in the midst of making plans with my 8-year-old, and so I can only imagine, you know, how they feel. Whatever they may have had planned, now they just finished burying their child. That will never go away.
A couple of other updates I just want to add in. Angeli Gomez, who is the heroic mom who was able to go into the school and get her children, she's saying that police are still terrorizing her to this day, and you know, that she had that previous case. So that's still happening. And also the body camera footage. We haven't gotten that either. A lot of parents are suing. I think 15 parents are suing the Uvalde Police Department because where's the body camera footage? Show us exactly what happened. Even though we were able to see that aerial footage from inside about knowing how long it took them to get there, I think the body camera footage would also make us feel a little bit like, oh, you really just sat there and did nothing.
I mean, all that's going to come out. They can try and hide it, but you can sue to get that information out. So they can stonewall as long as they want, but it's going to come out.
So a Republican congresswoman is coming under fire for what she said about the Supreme Court ruling on Roe versus Wade.
President Trump, on behalf of all the MAGA patriots in America, I want to thank you for the historic victory for life in the Supreme Court yesterday.
She was speaking at a campaign rally with former President Trump on Saturday. The Illinois Congresswoman's campaign spokesperson says she made a verbal stumble when she said this is for white life. Isaiah Wortman says to, quote, suggest she is somehow not committed to defending all life, and it is disgusting. Miller faces a primary election challenge today against a more moderate Republican, Rodney Davis. The two lawmakers were recently redrawn into the same legislative district.
I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone when I see that. I really do.
It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I know we don't have discussion time on this, but white life, I mean, you said what you said, and you meant what you said.
And said it with pride.
Absolutely. In front of all those people.
I mean, a stumble is like, again, it's kind of like the young man that we read yesterday who sent out a tweet, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't mean it to be like this. It's like, you meant what you said.
You meant what you said.
You said it very proudly.
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court is making it easier for some prison inmates to seek shorter sentences under a bipartisan 2018 federal law aimed at reducing racial disparities in prison terms for cocaine crimes. Now, the justices ruled 5-4 that trial judges who are asked to resentence inmates may look at a number of factors, including some that have nothing to do with crack cocaine offenses. Crack offenses produce longer prison sentences for people convicted, especially for African Americans and Latinos. A strange mix of justices joined Sonia Sotomayor in her opinion. Clarence Thomas, Stephen Breyer, Elna Cajun, and Neil Gorsuch all voted with her.
A proposed law aimed at removing a remnant of slavery from California law failed to pass the state Senate last week. The U.S. Constitution bans slavery, but it says it's okay for the government to force people to work as punishment for a crime. Now, many states, including California, still have that law on its books. So some state lawmakers want to change California's constitution to ban all forms of involuntary servitude. But Governor Gavin Newsom's administration warned the bill could force the state to pay prisoners the state's $15 an hour minimum wage. State officials say that would be a burden on taxpayers.
Closing arguments in the murder trial of the man accused of killing Nipsey Hussle are expected to begin today in Los Angeles. The trial has hit a number of snags because witnesses have either said very little or haven't shown up to court. The judge in the trial issued a warrant last week for an eyewitness to Hussle's murder. Police detectives have testified that witnesses are reluctant to come forward in this case, and they do not want to be considered as snitches. Evan McKenzie, who was a close friend to the rapper and was standing right next to him during the shooting, has ignored subpoenas ordering him to appear. A $500,000 bench warrant has been issued for him. So today was another day for evidence in trial. And so Eric Holder is the man that we're talking about here that was accused that did shoot and kill Nipsey Hussle. So he was beaten up in jail. So court ended abruptly today. And so he was beaten up in jail yesterday around 4 p.m. And so they say that the incident was so intense that he wasn't able to make it to court. So we're going to keep our soulmates updated on this. But I mean, we just have to wait and see how this all turns out. He wasn't able to make it to court because of the injuries that he sustained from this incident that happened in jail.
Right.
Wow.
You know, and I'll just say this. I know people are not coming forward to saying very little. We know what we saw, and I hope it does not prolong to his family getting justice.
Absolutely.
Right? We don't want to keep dragging this out.
Yeah, we don't. You know, I'm not from, I don't, you know, street code and all that, but, you know, we definitely need to make sure we just put people where they're supposed to be. So we know he's already admitted to this. So Demi, you said that he wasn't able to come to court today because he was badly injured. He should be behind bars. So hopefully, like you said, Romeo, this can wrap up very quickly.
Definitely. Well, a group of religious leaders in Philadelphia are working together to push for reparations. Yeah, a group of 150 Christians, Jewish and Muslim leaders spent Juneteenth reading personal testimonies, music, and poetry, telling people why reparations are so important. One of the speakers was Reverend Naomi Washington Leapart, who said slavery trauma is passed down from generation to generation through genetics. She said reparations will be a step toward collective healing for African Americans.
And a group of people in Oklahoma are filing 2 federal lawsuits challenging the state law intended to crack down on protesters. They say their civil rights were violated when they were arrested during the 2020 George Floyd protests. The 2021 law was passed by state lawmakers to crack down on protesters by increasing penalties for blocking roads. The law also grants immunity to motorists who kill or injure rioters. Attorneys for the group say the Oklahoma law is unconstitutionally broad and vague.
And instead of directing their fire at each other, 8 Democrats seeking to replace Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson are beating up on the incumbent Republican. The Democrats are blasting Johnson for his attempt to deliver fake Republican Electoral College ballots to then Vice President Mike Pence. They took time at his weekend's state Democratic convention to also attack Johnson for his past COVID-19 conspiracy theories, as well as his support for the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Polls show a tight race between Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, who is an African-American, and Alex Lazary, an executive on leave from the Milwaukee Bucks.
The Republican primary battle for Illinois' governor pits an African-American state prosecutor against a state lawmaker who fought pandemic measures like mask mandates. Today is Election Day. Richard Irvin is also the first black mayor of Aurora, Illinois. He goes up against Darren Bailey. 2 billionaire donors have put up $60 million into the race supporting both men. Irvin is more of a moderate, while Bailey is a Trump Republican. The winner will meet incumbent Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker in November.
An Oklahoma man who was walking around with a semi-automatic rifle and wearing a tactical vest outside a Target store wasn't doing anything illegal until cops found out that he had brass knuckles on him. Broken Arrow cops were called to the store on June 13th. Police say Zach Morrissey entered the store, sending people into a panic. Now, officers said it was okay for him to be there because Oklahoma's Constitution allows people 21 and over to carry firearms in public without permit or training, but his brass knuckles were illegal under the law. Morrison also had a semi-automatic pistol in a pouch. He was arrested after walking into a cell phone store to retrieve stuff he left behind a few days earlier, but on an unrelated warrant. Now, many say this is a preview of what's to come after the Supreme Court struck down a New York gun law. So walking around with a semi-automatic weapon is okay, but brass knuckles are not.
The first openly gay member of Congress is working on getting reelected this fall. Jones currently represents a northern suburban district that straddles the New York-New Jersey line. Now, this year, he's running in the 10th district, which combines part of lower Manhattan and Brooklyn, including the West Village, which has a large gay constituency. Jones says if he wins it, it will be a full circle moment for him. The 35-year-old says that he lived most of his life as a closeted gay man.
A white Michigan man who said he feared for his life when he shot a young black woman to death on his porch back in 2014 is being resentenced to a shorter term. A Michigan State Supreme Court vacated Theodore Wafer's manslaughter charge, saying he should not have been punished twice for the same crime. Wafer was originally convicted of second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. Instead of facing up to 30 years in prison, Wafer has been resentenced to 17 years. Prosecutors say Renisha McBride, who had been involved in an early morning car accident, knocked on Wafer's door. Wafer opened his door and shot her to death. Jurors did not buy Wafer's claim that he was frightened. I remember this case, and it's very heartbroken because, you know, it's an unfortunate situation. Your car breaks down. You're trying to seek help. She didn't show up to the door with a gun or anything of that nature, yet her life was taken away. And even the judge even said, look, Wade, you may have been a model prisoner, but the fact is remain the same. You cannot murder someone for simply knocking on your door. Some people feel like he should be in jail a lot longer, and some people are fighting saying he should be out by now. You know, teach his own, but I feel like he should definitely do time for what he did.
I think he should be in jail a lot longer. This young lady, I remember it so clearly because her name is Rainisha, and I had a cousin who I was very close to, and her name was Rainisha. And so this story really, really hit home for me. She was out at 4 a.m. She got into a car accident. She went and she knocked on his door for help.
Yeah.
And he said that he couldn't find his cell phone, so he came to the door with a shotgun and shot her through the screen door. No conversation, no hello, can I help you? Speak through the screen door. Speak through the door. You did not have to open your door and shoot her with a shotgun immediately. And so this young lady was 19 years old at the time. He tried to use the stand your ground law. Thank God that failed. And so, you know, listen, he's eligible for parole in 2031. And had this been my family member, I would show up to every parole hearing and make sure that my voice is heard. And that I advocate for him staying in jail the longest that he can be behind bars.
I agree.
You know, and just real quick, even the tone, if you'd had a conversation to the door, the tone of the person on the other side may have made you feel a little different. Like, okay, maybe everything is all right. He didn't give her a chance at all.
He didn't give her any chance whatsoever. All right, so people in Chicago are upset about a police shooting of a 13-year-old black teen as he was raising his hands in the air. Surveillance video shows 12 cops reportedly engaging in a foot chase May 18th of the unarmed 7th grader who was being referred to as AG. Lawyers for the child's family say the boy was running off on the sidewalk into a gas station parking lot, raising his hands and turning to his right when cops shot him in the back. Lawyers for the footage show 2 officers drag the boy onto a different location. The boy survived but suffers from injuries to his esophagus. Not only that, they think he's going to be paralyzed and not being able to walk again. When you say 7th grader, you clearly see this as a child. There's no justification for running, shooting. If he had his hands up in the air, whatever he did, I think it may have been a stolen car case or something like that. That should not end in you shooting him in the back. The other thing I think that also stands out was that when the little boy was shot, there was another officer who came to the scene that crashed his car. After shooting this child, they did not see about him. They did not tend to his injuries whatsoever. They went to help the officer from the car. So they let him stay there and languish while they tended to this other guy who crashed his car. And so now they don't know could he have been saved? Could he be able to walk again had they been able to render aid to him immediately?
Yeah. You know, it's just really sad to see stories like this come from my city because I feel like day in and day out, I'm always trying to prove like the city is so great. My city of Chicago is so great. But it's just really sad when you have to see stories like this over and over and over again, even just not even in Chicago, just in the world, to have to, you know, like you said, he was so young and so much life still to live. And you think like, okay, he's alive, but then his esophagus and again, Mimi, like you said, not being able to walk really. Are you living? Are you really alive when you have pretty much lost, you know,
your quality of life?
Your quality of life.
And by losing that, you know, it could be very financial for your family to take care of you. So they should be compensated for sure. And, you know, I've had conversations with police officers. I know you want to get home to your family, but when you have that many man force around that and you see the situation of such a young person, why do you feel the need to shoot first?
12 officers. 12 officers.
Yeah.
It just seems like a bit much for, yes, aggressive for a 7th grader.
Agreed.
Absolutely. A mistrial has been declared in the murder trial of the Baltimore woman accused of stabbing her girlfriend to death. Lakeria Daughtry appeared in the HBO film Charm City Kings. She's known in Baltimore as the Wheelie Queen. Prosecutors say that Doughty killed Tiffany Wilson on New Year's Day in 2021. They say the attack happened during a heated argument. State's attorneys say they will continue to seek justice on this case.